if you're afraid. All right, guys, let's get ready for a second semifinal here at WESG. And let's see if that man that I think we're going to introduce first can finally hold up his end of the bargain when it comes to the Dream Finals for the SE2 scene. It is Maru.
And down at the bottom right-hand side, our blue Terran player trying to be the villain of this tournament. It's INnoVation.
What a great series this is going to be. There is a chance that we're going to see a couple of short games here as well. TVT can be a little bit explosive, and we know that neither of these guys would be afraid to proxy, but especially Maru definitely has done this quite a few times in the past. He had an interesting, to say the least, series very recently in his GSL round of 16 group, but Maru did advance, and that's of course the most important thing there. Already starting with some mind games here as he's hiding his barracks in the main base of INnoVation. Scouts poorly, that could freak him out a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Of course, a year ago, this is kind of where that whole Maru versus Serral storyline started, right? Maru won against Serral 3-0 last year in the semifinals. That first game, Maru was pretty far behind.
Yeah, there were on 4 workers, in fact.
Yeah, there were moments where we felt that maybe Serral could have killed him, but Serral dragged it out to the late game, and Maru said like, oh, late game, huh? Ravens are pretty good. Now, of course, the Ravens are not as good anymore as they were back then. But of course, that's kind of where it all started, and that's where people said like, oh, Maru's clearly so much better. And then we all hoped that they would meet in that GSL versus the World in the summer, and they did when it came to a best-of-1 show match, which actually created some incredibly awesome, in my opinion, video footage where Maru stood up and he represented his team, and then it was up to Team Serral to decide, you know, who's going. And then I just loved it how on Serral's team we had Scarlet, we had Neep as well, as we have a minor pause here in the opening moments of this TVT. But it was like one of my favorite moments of that entire tournament, where it's like, Serral's like, oh, Maru's coming out? Does that mean that I should go? And then Neep is like, yeah, you go. And then Scarlet, like little Robin the show, is like, yeah, you go. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll play that best of 1. And this time Serral looked a lot better and did win that best of 1. But they didn't meet in the actual tournament. And people said that would have been a lot more important. You know, they wanted to see them play a best of 5 or a best of 7. And then, of course, BlizzCon, it almost felt like the stars were aligning. They were both incredibly dominant in their group stages. They was like, all right, this is it. It's going to be the greatest final ever. But then it got ruined by a Protoss. So Maru twice not holding up his end of the bargain. Let's see if he can do it this time, as Serral has once again already made it to the grand finals. But Maru does have to overtake, or conquer actually, that man that we were just looking at. It's not going to be easy, Wadi, but we all know that Maru is capable of it, obviously.
Yep, no, of course he is. As looks as though we've got a little bit of something being fixed up on the players' PCs or so maybe just a couple more moments before we'll be able to continue on here. But man, I love the storyline between Maru and INnoVation themselves. You mentioned just before we went to break, actually, on the last semi-final, how they haven't played like a lot of super important series, but I feel like Maru's first kind of breakout sort of play, you know, when he became this great player was when he took down INnoVation 4-0 in that SSL, was it, or OSL? It was one of the Star Leagues.
He 4-0'd him once in WCS Season 2, so yeah, I guess that counted as an SSL back then, right? Because it was like Season 1 was SSL. Yeah, Season 1 was GSL, and then Season 2 was SSL. As we are taking a look at our lovely Chinese colleagues. I do feel like we got the worst of the deals over here. Like, that actually looks pretty fun. Now, of course, the good thing for us is it's a 2-hour flight home and not an 11. So I do like that part about it, but I have to say that their backdrop looks slightly cooler than ours.
They could at least green screen us into China, couldn't they?
Yeah, they should do that, actually. Just put us on a beautiful square in Beijing somewhere. It's like, we didn't make it to the whole city, but we are in Beijing.
We just got a bit sidetracked on the way, you know, missed a flight.
Or you grab one of that, a little bit of footage of these guys that always climb these skyscrapers in Shanghai, and you put us on top of that. Hey, like, look at us now, Chinese commentators. You jealous?
Yeah, you got a stadium, we got the swag. Okay, well, obviously a couple of moments here before the TVT continues. I don't know what to expect, man. Like, even in terms of like opening styles, it's just so hard to say in TVT because there's so much that's, so much that's open as an option in the early stages of the game. Even through the mid game, you can play Bio, you can play Mech, both are
Yeah.
solid styles that both players will switch it up sometimes, I think.
I think it's very tough to predict almost anything in this best of 5, especially because we don't know what happens when they hit each other on the ladder. And obviously that must happen quite frequently because there aren't too many players of the caliber of Maru and INnoVation in the world. So there is simply a lot of games, there's a lot of history that we don't have access to, that we can't possibly know, that only these two players know about each other. And I can even assume that they might play some games with each other every now and then, maybe custom games as well. If you're on one side of the bracket and I'm on the other and they've got a TVT to practice for, like, for instance, if Maru knows he's about to play Bunny, like, how many Terrans out there are there that can get him ready for a Bunny, right? You're always looking at the TYs, the INnoVations, or maybe not live if he's in shape, but that makes it almost impossible for us to predict because we don't know what they know about each other. Most likely just going to be fireworks, and we know that it's a series that I think, I mean, it's not only important because there's so much money on the line and so much prestige, but for both these guys, obviously a unique opportunity. Maru could make it to 3 straight grand finals in a row here in WSG and give the world, the Starcraft world, what they've been waiting for. And INnoVation is ready to erase that mediocre 2018 forever and start off 2019 with a bang. Either way, it's looking good, Wadi.
It is looking good indeed. As we are just waiting for some updates here from China as to what's going on, so we're just kind of left alone.
Seems like something wrong. What was it? Scream? Maybe.
Yeah, he was like.
Yeah, maybe what sometimes
issue.
happens. Yeah, it could be a resolution issue as well. But sometimes it could also be like if the monitors are not set up properly, or you've got a shaky table, right? Certain players are kind of okay with that if things move a little bit. But there's also plenty of soccer players that are like, "Whoa, wait a minute," or like it depends a lot how you hold your mouse, right? Or if you lean more with your arm on the table or not. So one setup could work for one player, and the next player could be like, no, every time I do something, my entire monitor shakes, and it's distracting. So we'll see. But it should be fixed soon. I mean, the first semifinals went smooth.
Yeah, shouldn't be anything too devastating. If it happened in the first game of the first series, you're like, oh dear.
Yeah.
Like anything could be hit. Like you'd have to reinstall Starcraft. You know, we've heard some crazy things in the past. So, but shouldn't be too long at all. As these two epic titans get ready to do battle.
If you have to make one prediction right now, like a real one, not a hard one, but as an expert.
I think it goes to 5 games.
Yeah.
And I think Maru comes out because he's just looked so dangerous this tournament and like just doesn't like just styling on people as well, right? Like I don't know, like I know INnoVation's had a good run as well and he played very smart against Rail. I just feel like Maru's still got that slight edge and always seems to just have such a great way of playing TVT.
I feel like the opinions are pretty split, right? I feel like a lot of the fans pick Maru, but that's also more because that's the hard pick, right? That's because that's the people that people want to see that final between Sero and Maru, especially after Sero's already done it. But I feel like there's a couple of experts as well, especially when it comes to great Terran players in the European scene that say like, no, Inno's got this. But then I never know if that's like a hipster pick, because if they're wrong, nobody focuses on it because everybody's so excited that we got the final. And if they're right, they look really good, right? So how much can you really look into those predictions?
I don't even know, man. Like, how do you predict anything for these guys, really? Because it's so possible we can have, like, 3 amazing games, but they all just slightly go in favor of one or the other two, right? Like, that's how crazy good these guys are. Yeah,
this is kind of weird. This is one of those series, and this is, like, the worst prediction of all time, but it's, like, it can generally go from 3-0 on one side to 3-0 on the other side, and neither score would be truly shocking or surprising other than the fact that it is a 3-0, but I can see it. I mean, if one of these guys is just feeling off for whatever reason, right? Like, maybe we had a terrible night of sleep, had a terrible breakfast or something, I don't know. They can get 3-0 there because that's how incredibly good these guys are. I believe we have some updates coming in from our producer, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I couldn't quite hear.
Oh, okay.
No information.
So the only update is that there is no update! Okay, yeah, so we've got more. He's telling us a little story as well. It's awesome to hear what he did this morning, too, and that he's been loving the McDonald's breakfast and all this stuff. But all right, guys, so apparently he said there is no information and we just have to wait, and he said it's perhaps better to go to a quick break. So we're going to follow the orders, guys. Very quick break, and after that we'll be back with, hopefully, Game 1 of Maru versus INnoVation.
You cashed in on my promises. You know I'm too generous. Now I've learned to never help you out. 'Cause I'm done cleaning up your mess. Found myself in my regrets. I've become a little stronger now. A little stronger now.
Welcome back, guys, as the game has just resumed when we're in that quick little break. So straight back into the action as we have factory finished up here from Maru. I mean,
I have the feeling the factory wasn't even started yet when we went to the break, by the way. So little fast forward over here, mate.
yeah, just a little bit, but we do see the openings, and it is a pretty fast expand from both players. We see this quite typically nowadays, where players are generally expanding off of double gas so that they have the factory pretty quick to help them out with the early game. So seeing this so far pretty mirrored, although a starport on one side of the map and no starport for INnoVation.
We'd kind of love to see if INnoVation scouted anything at all, right? I mean, I think most players are pretty careful with their Reaper movement early on, unless you go 3 Reaper double heli, and then maybe you're somewhat okay with losing one of them. But if you're trying to skip out on one of those units, you really want to play this as careful as possible. Maru is the first one to really get a sneak peek up this ramp. Whoa, that Hellion gives so much vision, by the way. The Reaper's just shutting that Marine down from the low ground. I mean, obviously not the biggest of deals, but one of those feel-good moments.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one of those moments where I don't think you ever expect that Marine to be in trouble.
No.
Not unless the Reapers hop up, which is kind of what you wanted, right? That's what you're positioned for. So a little bit of a shame as we see the Cyclone and the Liberator on the way out from Maru. So very kind of active on the map setup, where the Cyclone's very mobile. The Liberator as well from INnoVation, actually. So both these players going for a little bit of a harassment setup early. In fact, kind of just following each other's orders. Cyclone Liberator from INnoVation 2. More Marine production coming up. And even a third gas on the way from Maru, who did expand low ground, by the way, versus the high ground of INnoVation.
So that's going to give him a minor advantage, of course, guys. Even though that orbital was slightly quicker for So I guess it all kind of evens out. But super fast 3 refineries, by the way, for Maru, right? So are we expecting multiple Ravens here? Raven Viking, this kind of stuff. He's making a second Cyclone as well, Maru that is. But that is very fast.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of just strange because you expect to just see the Raven come up so fast nowadays because every little bit of energy you get on it is so useful. But not the case right here, as INnoVation will swap up in towards siege tanks. Obviously, the Liberator shouldn't do much with the Cyclones on the field.
Yep, as long as Maru is in position. I mean, this, of course, goes for both sides. INnoVation has his own Cyclone as well, right? He's got at least one, the safety Cyclone. So both players having somewhat identical openings. Maru just mining a little more gas at this point, but INnoVation is gas finished up now as well. Maru even taking his 4th gas already while picks up this Hellion and went out the map. Let's see who's more on point when it comes to pulling SCVs away and making sure you don't take too much unnecessary damage. I mean, are these guys like in agreement of how they should open in TVT, or what's going on over here, buddy?
Yeah, I tell you what, the Raven from Maru is obviously about to finish as the Liberator siege up. Just going to say no Raven from INnoVation. That's interesting, but let's watch these Libs for a moment. Cyclone locking on here. So INnoVation is going to lose his Liberator. Maru keeps his alive, and they get the same amount of workers. So that's obviously a win from Maru.
Yep. Even though you can say that maybe there was slightly more lost mining time right on the side of Maru, but I do agree with you. I'd rather keep my Liberator alive for 3 or 4 seconds of SCVs not mining. Double Viking production already for Maru, so he's indeed, I mean, he has 2 Ravens out. Definitely has 1 Raven, that's all I know. I think there is a good chance there is a 2nd Raven as well. And obviously that made some sense considering how eager he was to take all those refineries as quickly as possible.
Well, look at this army from Maru. Just a bit of an odd selection, but moving into the middle. Very different styles, by the way, after the mirrored openings.
Yep.
Maru has obviously gone into those Ravens, whereas INnoVation just has not at all. And INnoVation's gone into extra barracks and stim pack already.
Very quick stim as well. So scanned by Maru. Maru knows what he's going to deal with. He's probably going to use that Liberator to siege up on top of that tank, right? I assume that that's going to happen. There was one scouting. That is so important, by the way. These mine, I think, but that one Marine. Now Maru is sending out his Vikings and his tanks already to the other side of the map. And if he hits right before stim is done, as he picks up another Marine for himself, yeah, things can get a little bit gnarly here for INnoVation, right? Obviously, stim is a great upgrade, but if the tanks are sieged up before stim is done, what are you really going to do with stim?
Yeah, no, I mean, Stim doesn't really do anything if you've got to push into tanks because you don't have medevacs to heal. It gets a little bit messy. That Raven obviously has interference matrices, so you can push into the tank line of INnoVation here as Maru, and that Liberator as well. There's no Vikings out. There's air control from Maru, so this is amazing for him.
Yep, all of these tanks are going to be forced to reposition. Now, of course, Maru is going to probably try to do that one more time. INnoVation picks up all of his Marines, but what is he really going to do with it? Stim is done right now, +1, almost done, but these tanks taking a lot of damage. Love the interference matrix on that Cyclone there, and that means that this Liberator of Maru is just going crazy.
Yeah, the Liberator is so good at the moment. Low on health, but that Cyclone had to pull back. More Vikings showing up. The Marines are going to try and flank on in here, so going to try and come in from a couple of directions. But look how much damage the siege tanks are taking. Another goes down, and Maru is doing crazy things at the moment.
Yep, INnoVation did set up a nice little flank. Now he's going to pull the SCVs. He's going to use Stim, come in from multiple angles. He will clean this up eventually, but at the cost of, I mean, I must say 9 SCVs is not that bad, Wadi. I expected this to be a little worse. I think Maru is still ahead. But giving the circumstances, giving the conditions, I think INnoVation did a pretty excellent job there.
And Maru's defense has to be absolutely on point right now because the last thing you can allow to happen is for Marines to just stim into the natural and there only be 1 or 2 siege tanks, or to drop in the main and the siege tanks be out of position. Because that's what what INnoVation has as an advantage, a huge army here.
That's actually sick. And now the Raven is out of position as well. Can INnoVation find an opening? What's in the main base of Maru? I highly doubt that he has a lot. That's where INnoVation is obviously going to try to strike. Can he pick up that Cyclone as well? No, that's not going to happen yet. But there's almost nothing here, Wardy.
Yeah, and there's no sim from from Maru, sorry. Oh, okay, there's 2 siege tanks.
But, I mean, maybe if the reactors go down, maybe a barracks goes down. Maru's still being annoying as well with his Raven and his Liberator on the other side of the map. But I like this damage from INnoVation. I'd love to see him go for the starport. That would be a sick pickoff.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to get it, and Maru has to lift that up and relocate it here. Now, 7 workers go down on the other side of the map, though, so an INnoVation who's already hurt in economy is taking even more damage, and there is still no response to that. That Liberator gets away again.
Yeah, that was it. Like, it looked very promising for INnoVation, but the tanks kept Maru safe. And Maru, with very little, actually did more damage on the other side of the map than what INnoVation did with quite a few units.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously, Maru still had to play defensively. His army is not where he needs it to be to really fight this. And that's why INnoVation is going to try and break it with a big drop. He just needs to decide where to go. 2 more
I think he's going to drop on top of the tanks in the natural. But Stim is done now for Maru as well. Maru's obviously starting to get more and more Marines out. Scan goes down. INnoVation is going to drop right on top of these tanks. Here we go.
As CVs are pulled in instantly to try and help out Marines. Stim in from INnoVation on the low ground. 13 workers go down for Maru. I mean, that's the eco damage that INnoVation needs here. As he lifts up, but those Marines can chase a bit further. Okay, the Marines do unload now. And that's going to be a bit of a tough spot as another Liberator shows up.
Yep, this makes it even harder for Maru. He's going to lose more SCVs. His tank wasn't really ready to deal with those Marines either. I love the way that INnoVation has been going about this attack. It is important he doesn't take too much damage at home, but the damage he's dealing in the main base of Maru, I would almost say is catastrophic. How is Maru going to recover from this?
I don't think you do actually at this point, and you can see him dropping some heals down here as he pushes this away. But now he's equal on workers. His army supply is down a little bit,
It's 3 CCs against 2, though, right? Oh, no, INnoVation has his own 3rd CC in the main as well, I assume, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's... Yeah, unless that's just 2 barracks with add-ons, actually. Can be a bit deceiving on the minimap. Sometimes there's a Viking here from Maru. Doesn't really finish off any of these low-health medevacs. We see the Marines splitting up and stimming in. And INnoVation types GG? I mean, he loses 14 more workers? Oh.
It's a Liberator and a Raven that almost completely shut INnoVation down, even though I love the way he was doing that. Getting the first drop on top of the tanks, it looked really promising. Then he picked up his units, he repositioned all the way into the back of the mineral line. He got a great fight there. He did an insane amount of damage, but Maru, with so little, got so much done on the other side of the map.
I do feel like that mustn't have been a 3rd CC from INnoVation, right? And that's why he GG'd out. Because I think with a 3rd CC here, you say, okay, I land it, I play on. But he's obviously about to lose this army, which is fine if he's trading out and all of this. If he has a 3rd CC, but knowing Maru has one, I think he's just on 2 bases and there's nothing he can do about it.
It almost feel like he shouldn't have picked up his units at one point and just trade out till the bitter end, send those medevacs home, and then focus on his defense.
Yeah.
I think a frustrating game. It was a really fun one. I love the way that handled the dicey scenario that he was in. I love that he got a couple of Marines kind of behind the line of Maru, picked off the reinforcements. So he sent a couple of tanks. He had to make sure that one tank got turned around. Then eventually he got the engagement from multiple angles. And yes, he lost 9-10 SCVs in the progress. But the way that Maru was executing an attack, I really thought that was going to be a lot worse. I was like, man, I have no idea how Inno is going to get himself out of here. And then he actually did with quite some units as well. That meant he had an army advantage. It's that Liberator, man. That one Liberator, Ultra MVP for Maru. First, good use of it early game. Good use of it during that push as well, where he kept forcing the tanks to reposition. And he got a couple big shots off. And then in the end, somehow getting 15, 16 SCVs with a single Liberator as well.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But brilliant stuff from Maru in the end. I actually loved the attack that he was going with as well. Like, just the way he was setting the Liberator up, just on the very edge and making sure the tanks were perfectly in range to cover it from Marines if they came forwards. It's those little things where if you go a step too far, INnoVation's like, boom, kill the Liberator, and instantly this push from Maru doesn't get anywhere near as much done in the early game anyways. And then INnoVation has Stim to counterattack with and all the rest, right, without losing SCVs. And even that's a very different game as Maru sits 1-0 up here in the semi-finals.
2 maps. Now we're 2 maps away from that dream final one. It's I love how everybody's hyping it up all the time during an IEM Katowice, during BlizzCon, during GSL vs. the World. Didn't happen. I think this week, low-key, yeah, you saw it a couple times, but people are not building it up in the same way as it was. But I think it's like one of those unexpected best Christmas presents ever, you know. And it's like, oh, Christmas is always fun. And just like every Starcraft tournament is fun. But then suddenly you find that one present you've been looking for, where you kind of didn't think you were going to get it anymore. But we're obviously not there yet, and we'll see how this second semifinal plays out. But I did really enjoy that first game. I think Maru played excellent. He definitely looked on point. Looked like he was in trouble in his main base as well, but somehow squeezed out enough units. And INnoVation looked good with his attacks. Looked good when he was on the ropes. Did not look good against the single unit harassment that Maru was throwing at him.
Yeah, it's almost like INnoVation looked great in every aspect apart from the simplest parts of this to defend, right? Just falling apart, that Liberator. I mean, the couple times he got away was absolutely game-changing as the Chinese fans are obviously having some fun. Looks like they're having a good time. That's good to see, you know, everyone showing up and enjoying the matches.
We've got good old Frank there standing in the line.
Yeah.
He's been the referee of WESG for years. He also likes to put on the replay packs very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're eager to get these replays out there to learn from, or maybe to cast a couple of these games, you'll absolutely get that done because they always release them pretty quickly. Of course, INnoVation is your blue Terran in the right bottom side. He's down 0-1 against this man, the reigning champion of WESG, which is Maru on the left top side.
Yep, so Maru up 1-0, 2 maps away from, well, making everyone's dreams come true. And we set up on Kairos Junction for a second map here. Very intrigued to see how this goes because, again, the Raven has been almost like an absolute necessity in TVT recently. So to have now INnoVation opening game 1 without a Raven at all feels very strange, feels very weird, and almost, I mean, it's really something you just don't expect to see, such a fast impact, such fast free racks. Obviously, it didn't work out for him in the end, but it didn't work out for him because of a lack of a Raven.
No, I agree. I don't think the strategy that Inno went for was really the problem, even though he was on the ropes, of course. And I must say, I mean, kudos to Maru for hitting that first timing, obviously being aware of what is happening as well, and getting that nice setup right before Stim was ready. But I don't think that game got decided by either of those two things. I think it's mostly just Maru got an insane amount of damage done with a single Raven dropping a couple of other turrets and a Liberator repositioning itself a couple of times and basically dealing as much damage as the 20 Marines and couple siege tanks of INnoVation on the other side of the map. If Inno would have handled that a little bit better one way or the other, have a couple Marines at home, then I really think there is a chance that we're looking at a 1-0 lead of INnoVation instead, because he was dealing a tremendous amount of damage in the main base of Maru as well.
You can see here once again, probably going to be expansion play from both, because as they're on double gas, it gets you that factory fast, but then they pull workers out of gas to help with the mineral count, so you can build into the command center before the starport, and then it just gives you that Reaper Hellion opening. Obviously you have the factory and, you know, to go into the starport, and you can just play however you want to play out the 1-1-1, as that's a dead SCV actually from Maru, so nice catch from INnoVation.
Of course, you always want to be careful with your Reaper. This is a relatively tiny map when it goes from ramp to ramp. It is, of course, a macro-oriented map. If you eventually get up to 3-4 bases, then I think this map plays out very nice, especially in TVT. I think we had a couple excellent TVTs at the Intel Extreme Masters on this map as well. That really stood out. I think Hero Marine Keen was really cool on this map and stuff like that. But early game, you got to be careful, because it's one of those maps where if you do end up losing a Reaper and a Hellion, your opponent can run immediately into your natural, and if you don't really have a proper setup, you know, you might be forced to land your CC or not be using your CC or your orbital for quite some time, and that could be very deadly. So most likely we're going to see a relatively careful opening here from both these guys. And while I say that, just jumps on top of the Reaper of Maru. Somehow gets it as well, by the way. Maru perhaps sleeping on the job there a little bit. Look at the HP on the Reapers of, he's still full. But his Hellion did take a little bit of damage. That Widow Mine is taking quite some damage as well. He could maybe sacrifice his Hellion.
Yeah, he could just grenade the Widow Mine down perhaps as well in the next couple of moments. Oh my god, he's got one hit.
Uno mas, uno mas.
Oh
no!
my god, no, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness,
no.
I think he thought he had it. Now instead he ends up losing almost everything. There is another Reaper showing up there, and there's still more HP on the side of INnoVation. And this is what I meant on Kairos Junction. You can prevent this CC from finishing up. Imagine if Inno throws one more grenade there.
Yeah.
This is not just bad for Maru, but it's really bad.
Yeah, absolutely game-changing moment already as we have the first 4 minutes of the game wrapping up. And Raven on the way out from either side now. So INnoVation changing up his playstyle a little bit. Still is ahead on that command center, of course. So a little bit of a faster orbital, but nowhere near as bad as it could have been.
I think they traded out the final Hellion for the Reaper there. I think Maru lost one more Reaper on his side, and Inno just kind of threw away his Hellion. But he does have that Cyclone. I think Inno is okay with that. But he was an inch away there. He was a single grenade away from not just being okay with that, but absolutely loving it and probably just taking control of this game.
Yeah, it's a mistake like that, which is so minor, but then it could have been such a major thing as Maru would have been able to do so much.
There is some potential here with that Cyclone as well, though, right? I mean, what does Maru really have? Is he going to drop an auto turret, perhaps? I mean, that's one thing. But you don't really want to throw away your energy, but he's got to do something. I mean, I know there's a tank almost out, but that's still going to take a little while. And if INnoVation can get like 2 or 3 SCVs, he gets this Hellions as well, both of them. Man, pretty successful move out by Inno.
Yeah, getting more done than you thought he would. As that Cyclone now pushed away. Banshee on the way from Maru as well, and just going to be cloakless.
Yep, 3 CCs this time quicker on the side of INnoVation.
It's going to be another aggressive attack from Maru, right, with the Banshees to try and maybe pick off tanks. And obviously just no cloak, just says straight up, like, I'm just going to push at the front rather than I'm going to, like, dodge around with these Banshees and harass a little. That, or it's just the one Banshee just to try and do a little bit of damage and keep yourself a bit safe.
Double lock on.
Yeah, lock on. Interference Matrix to stop one of them firing. And that's actually really important because now the SCVs can repair this up.
Yep, good job there.
Wow.
Good save by Maru. Makes me sad to see, both of his Cyclones were right next to each other, right? So if the tank shot at one of them, the other one was actually taking a lot of damage as well. I think if he doesn't do that and he leaves a little bit of distance between these 2 Cyclones, there is a chance that he gets that tank in the end, or maybe at least he has some more HP, so he feels more comfortable to stick around. But just a nice little dance there, right? And both players making sure that neither of them is slipping up. But I think, obviously keeping his Cyclones alive there is the most important thing.
Maru scans this third CC, and as soon as he does, he unsieges the tanks because, well, he's got to do something, right? That third CC is finished up, and he hasn't done anything himself, as we do see him just starting to push across. So definitely a bit behind if he lets this go on too long. He even pulls a few SCVs to go across the map, so Maru very committed to making something happen.
Yeah, and because Inno took a lot of damage on his Cyclones, he actually didn't have vision of it. Normally the Cyclones would be on the other side of the map, but he did send out this one Marine. He spots the tank, spots the Banshee, sees the SCV, so he should know what he's dealing with. And there are Ravens as well. You know what I'd love to see? An interference matrix on the Raven of Maru, because I think if INnoVation does that, he will at least keep his own tank safe, and then it doesn't matter that much that he's outnumbered, right?
I don't actually know how you push up into this space as Maru because he only has one Raven of his own. Drops his Vikings down to the ground, and I mean, INnoVation just has plenty to defend this, so Maru will not achieve anything, and as time ticks by, he's down on everything.
He's down a base.
Yeah, exactly.
He's down a base, and there is nothing going in Attack Lab either. There are more Vikings on the way. I mean, geez Louise, INnoVation is just like, it feels so far ahead.
Yeah, it really is as well. Like, he has the Vikings. Oh my god, the Raven takes some shots. Well, obviously the SCVs are here to repair, and INnoVation in the in the face of danger just says, well, I'll just take my third base anyways.
Yeah, really good scouting by Inno right now. There is a Banshee, and if there's one thing we were a bit critical of last game is that INnoVation was a little slow to react against those Liberators, but he's going to get this Banshee. There's no cloak there. Double Cyclone locks on. Maru ends up losing one of these as well, and this is going from bad to not just worse, but a lot worse for Maru. INnoVation does siege off though, and there is that Raven. Maru does get the interference matrix up, so maybe this is Maru's moment.
I mean, absolutely. If there's one moment here, it is this. As the auto turrets buy some time, though, the Vikings land and INnoVation takes what I feel is a really underwhelming game from Maru because nothing came of it, right? Like, just nothing at all. And was it really just that early aggression that just put Inno into that little bit of a spot where he just had enough by the time Maru pushed.
Look at that smirk. He's like, yeah. And Maru's like, that game didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you, because it really feel like, yeah, of course, INnoVation got the upper hand when it came to that Reaper Hellion skirmish. And he got a little bit of follow-up done with his Cyclones. It looked good and all. But it almost felt that Maru's entire game plan here was, I hope that you don't see my push moving out. And if you don't see my push moving out, I'm going to interference matrix the tanky and natural. I'm going to siege up my tanks. I'm going to be able to land all the Vikings as well. And it's going to be great. And then he ran into a Marine in the middle of the map. And Maru's like, oh. And Inno's like, I guess I'll wait here. And Maru's like, well, I'm kind of on the clock here, buddy. Like, kind of need to make something happen. So, yeah, it felt awkward and weird. And indeed, a bit underwhelming by Maru, but solid performance by Inno.
It's one of those situations where it's like, the build of Maru makes so much more sense if just little things go slightly different. And in this situation, just everything, just the little things go wrong. And suddenly it's like, Maru, is this even a build? Well, yes, it is. It works quite well. I'm sure if he's using it in the semifinals of WESG.
I think it's all about it being obviously kind of hidden and not being spotted this early on. But then I also think it's about hitting as quick as possible, because the lower that Inno is on units, the more power there is in that single Raven, of course, of Maru as well. And then he can maybe overwhelm it. And if Maru can just get himself in a good position in natural, suddenly we're casting a completely different game. But it really felt that single Marine that went out there in the middle of the map and saw those tanks and saw those SCVs. That Marine deserves a medal, because that allowed Inno to get in that strong defensive setup. And like you said, he wasn't worried. He was floating over that orbiter as well. And I think Inno was probably very confused. The first thing pro gamers do is they take a look at the graphics or the charge after the game. It's like, oh, no turret CC, Maru. I guess not a great game by you. And maybe that's why he had the little smirk as well. Maybe press rewind in the end. And he's like, well, you were dead all in. Didn't even feel that all in. Because normally if Maru does, quote-unquote, all in, you or at least is very committed to his pressure, it's basically all hands on deck, right? And it's SCVs being pulled, and you barely survive. And you're like, probably a couple SCVs down, but you've got 3 orbitals. And none of that was even the case here.
Not at all. Maru gets a little bit stumped in game number 2, and we're tied up 1-1 in this semi-final. And it's still just whoever takes the next 2 maps to take this down and to go to the finals against Serral.
What's the verdict after these first 2 games?
Honestly, I feel like INnoVation looks like the better player. Like, game 1, he obviously had a couple slip-ups, but they were so easy to fix what he messed up on, whereas he really put Maru into super dangerous positions. And when Maru had INnoVation in a dangerous position, INnoVation dealt with it very well, whereas when Maru was dealing with those attacks, it was very sloppy. It was losing a lot, loads of SCVs going down. And then obviously the second game was just all about INnoVation.
Yeah, I think game 3 absolutely make it or break it point already in this semifinals now for Maru, because he needs to start getting his own things going, especially build order-wise. I kind of feel like I'm liking the builds from INnoVation a tiny bit better. Maru is relying a lot on very narrow windows. Now, of course, if anybody can smash those windows, it is Maru, because he will get the perfect setups. But yeah, INnoVation is not your B-tier Terran. He's one of the very, very best out there. And it feels weird to put, I don't want to say all your eggs in one basket, but it really does feel that Maru relies so much on like that first or second move out already, that if that doesn't go according to plan, is there a backup plan at all? But maybe we'll see Maru show up with some different stuff here as well in game 3 or 4. Either way, I think if I'm INnoVation, I'm feeling pretty good about these 2 games. Like you said, first game, yeah, I messed up against the Liberator. Messed up against the Raven. I was distracting him a bit while he was pushing. Game 2, it's like, well, did I just defend your 2-base attack without like any SCV losses at all? I often say that normally in a game of Starcraft 2, if things are too good to be true, they usually are, right? If you play against Maru, and it's that easy to defend the 2-base attack, that normally means there is a big, crazy follow-up, or maybe even a hidden base, something like that. That must have been what was going through INnoVation's mind there as well. It's like, no, that was actually it. And it must feel really damn good if you're Inno. And don't forget about like that early game. It could have even gone a lot better, right?
Yeah, if he kills that Widow Mine, and then he's just like, I mean, that's
4 or
even
5
more
units
stuff.
against 2 at that point. Then I don't even know if Maru ever gets that command set to finish up. And even if he does, he would have to pull 5 or 6 SCVs. So perhaps I almost want to say a hipster prediction of some of these top European Terrans that have been seen coming by on the Twitters. It's looking pretty good so far after 2 games. Even though we're all tied up, Inno had a very convincing game 2.
Well, here we are going into New Repugnancy for our 3rd map of the semi-final. The bottom left, an outright Terran player who needs to sharpen up just a little bit. It's Maru.
And on the right top side, we're looking at a man who already sent out one of his SCVs. It is INnoVation.
Yeah, so it looks like INnoVation's going to go for the proxy 2 Rax Reaper. New Repugnancy works well for this because There's a lot of surface area across the right side of Maru's main base here. So a lot of hop-up spots, plus the ability to go around to the natural. So INnoVation gonna get aggressive.
And it's a small map as well, which means that your SCVs make it to the other side of the map quite quickly. And he's building these barracks hella close to the main base of Maru, right? Like there are plenty of maps out there where people proxy, but then it still takes a little while before those Reapers actually hop into the main base. That's not the case. Maru A needs to scout this, and B has to be so careful, because TVT, as beautiful as a matchup as it can be, when these kind of builds go up against each other and Maru ends up losing his first Reaper, it can end there, guys. It can be over in 3 or 4 minutes. So Maru needs to A, sniff this out, and B, babysit these Reapers like they are his precious from Lord of the Rings.
One good thing for Maru here is going to be that it is double gas, like we saw in the last games. He will get the factory pretty quickly. There is that possibility, of course, where he just goes for like the single gas Reaper expand and then a factory, in which case your factory is going to be super late. The belly of the factory, the faster you get a Hellion out to start dealing with this.
If this Reaper of Maru just runs to the middle of the map, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I'm going to have a minor heart attack over here about it, because things can get very, very gnarly there. Maru completely in the dark, has no idea this is happening. He is building a depot somewhat on the outskirts of his base, but that's more, I feel like, for a later stage, right? To maybe spot for
watch
something.
like a Banshee or a Liberator coming in
Exactly,
quickly.
stuff like that. It's not going to help out that much against these Reapers. Maru's got no idea. This game is about to heat up. That first Reaper of Maru is his everything right now. Do not end up losing it.
He is going to come down, and he is going to go straight towards the proxy location, so he sees it. And he gets some good damage off on that Reaper as well. Obviously taking some shots himself, but
he
nothing
knows.
major.
Yeah, he
and
knows.
knowing it is a absolutely huge. Factory will finish as well before the Reapers get here.
Also
so
massive.
No delay.
Yep, also massive. And now at this point, Maru just needs to buy a little bit of time. He's waiting for his own second Reaper to get out. It's completely okay for Maru to lose a couple of SCVs here. Just don't end up losing your units, because you've got so few units to work with. INnoVation, his damage is starting to rack up, getting quite a bit of damage. 3 SCVs going down. And here is that second Reaper for Maru. And obviously things get a lot better for Maru when he gets his Hellion. Now this micro battle is going to be incredibly important.
Still a couple of SCVs coming forwards, because 3 Reapers, 4 Reapers now in a moment can become huge here, especially on the Hellion. It takes a lot of damage, but that's 2 Reapers down from INnoVation and make that 3 as finally Maru loses 1, but he will chase, and that final Reaper is super low HP. Maru has pushed this back.
Yeah, good hold by Maru, I think, there in the end. Inno clicking on that Hellion, but not getting the Hellion in the end. That's going to completely shut down the follow-up here as well. Now, there is a factory going up in the main base, and of course, Maru still has to be careful, because a couple of his SCVs are very injured, by the way. So there is a chance that Reapers maybe hop into the main base in a weird angle.
Well, Maru actually went further on the map. Now he's going to have to push back up a ramp to get towards these Reapers.
Oh man, he put himself in an awkward spot, didn't he?
Yeah.
Imagine if these Reapers go into the main base now. I don't think there's that much there for Maru, but instead Maru is going to send his units to the other side of the map. INnoVation is going to have to protect his own command center.
Well, there's nothing here, right? So if he just goes up into the main, there's obviously huge amounts of damage potential with the splash of the Hellions.
Yep, well, these SCVs are going to line up a little bit. Where are these Reapers of Inno? They are coming. But can Maru get some damage done here? A couple of SCVs have gone down already. 3 Reapers should be more than enough.
Yeah, they should be able to clean this up indeed. 3 SCVs going down, though. It's damage which you don't usually expect as Maru in this position, but of course he's lost a few units, but he's already got his starport up and running. As this barracks gets turned away with a full scout. Actually, no, doesn't see the starport.
Yeah,
Oh, I like
exactly.
that position.
That's not a full scout, as that tech lab was not revealed. It is going to spot that this command set is being built. You know, one of the best things for INnoVation during that previous battle, by the way, as this one Reaper deserves a little award there as well, because it focused the Hellions. Wait, are these SCVs not mining in the main base of Inno?
Oh, I don't know about that, but for the moment, the Banshee shows up and pushes those Reapers away. Be nice if we could go and see that. His income looks
Yeah, his
about
income
right.
looks all right. Okay. So one of the biggest things, I think, during that fight, INnoVation was able to squeeze another SCV to the low ground almost immediately, and Maru kind of ignored it. And that allowed INnoVation to at least work on his command center during all of this. Don't forget about these SCVs that took a little bit of a beating early game, and that means it's a little bit easier for a couple of these Reapers of INnoVation to get a few more kills in.
Yeah,
Wow.
good grenades as well, keeping the units back from Maru for just that little bit longer, and Maru is down by 6 workers at the moment.
Yep. Now, of course, he does have Cloak Banshees, and Cloak Banshees have a lot of micro potential in this matchup. I don't know how many scans are available. One Cyclone should not get this Banshee. Maru should be able to keep his Banshee safe, and that's exactly what he does. I would still say that Maru needs a bit more, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, the Raven's out now as well, though, for INnoVation, so it's not going to be as difficult to defend this. Oh my god, that Banshee turned away at the perfect moment. It just got out of range to get away from the lock-on. Well, okay, 4 workers down from Maru, and he's still got his command center on the high ground as well.
Yeah, so I don't really like that, right?
Yeah,
It's hard to be a fan of this position if you're a Maru fan at this point. Does get one of these Reapers of INnoVation, and that's nice. Doesn't end up losing any SCVs, but his command center isn't even in orbital yet, Wadi.
Yeah, no, it's a
Jeez.
real kind of tough situation when you think about that.
What about the army? Is that something that can Maru do something with the units that he has out right now? Obviously, he's got multiple Banshees. He's got Cloak. Despite the fact that there's a Raven there, there's always some Cloak potential because the Raven can be everywhere at once, right? Maybe Maru can make a move out with his tanks. It almost feels like he has to.
It feels like he should, especially because INnoVation's building a third CC. But of course, Maru's had a factory in Starport for so much longer as well that he should just have more units from this. As the Banshee shows up, that's actually a good few workers he's able to get. I mean, there's 4 interference matrixes is great because otherwise he would have lost a couple more workers.
Yeah. I actually really like the interference matrix, but maybe in a way Maru's okay with that as well, because that's obviously going to make his push stronger. Maru was down economically quite a bit, but he's got a bigger army. He's got more tanks out as well, and he also knows that the Raven of INnoVation just burned through some energy. Did have his traditional scout in the middle of the map, so he sort of knows, but it's not going to be an easy defense this time for INnoVation.
No, he's only running with 1 siege tank, and his next tank only just started, but the Banshee's going to bypass the Cyclones and the Ravens, so it'll get even more damage done. I mean, that's actually quite a big moment or so here. Then the Banshee does get away as well for the moment. Cyclones are kept busy.
But it's pulling the units a bit out of position, but I still think... Whoa, that's not a good position to siege up, Maru. He's taking a lot of damage there. He ends up losing his tank. This is not going well at all for Maru. Loses the Banshee too. Oh my goodness, he didn't get anything there.
Yeah, INnoVation has the defense that he needs, and he's up a 3rd CC.
Yep, and now he's getting stim as well. Maru is starting his own 3rd CC in his main base. But Maru sieging up that tank on the low ground, in range of that tank from INnoVation. Of course, Maru not having his own Raven there, so not really able to get too much done. And INnoVation now feeling confident enough that maybe he can move out and maybe he can do something. And things are starting to look a little bit dire for Maru, man. I'm not feeling it. He needs to catch a break. There is a chance that this Banshee can get some work done because a few SCVs still bruised up of all the previous battles in the main base as well. So this is good for Maru. This is excellent because all the units of Inno are way out of position. Wow, this hurts, man.
Yeah, he's actually having to pull SCVs away from the mineral line here. It's only a Viking to show up. I mean, I think INnoVation is just like, okay, well, we get another SCV or so, kites away, and you can still get out of that scan. That's 9 workers, a Banshee still alive, and he's going to come back in for more.
Yep, not a scan needs to go down. Oh my goodness, this single Banshee of Maru. It's kind of turning this game upside down again, but now INnoVation says it's my time, it's my turn. Of course, Maru did know about this, because he also knows that otherwise that Banshee would have never done that much. What is Maru doing? Where are these units going? He's just moving them out. Are we going to base trade here, or?
I guess you just can't fight this because of the Ravens, right? I mean, the Ravens just interference matrix. They have so much energy, they didn't have to do anything in the previous fight. So they have been full of energy. Now they're going to be able to come in and do... well, a lot. And so Maru says his best chance is to go across the map, but INnoVation obviously sees it happening. He's set up with siege tanks, and well, yeah, I'm not quite convinced.
With 2 tanks, a couple of SCVs are going to get pulled as well. And if these SCVs can just keep these units away from the tanks, it's going to be good for INnoVation regardless. The tanks do go down, but there's a landed Viking there on the south side for INnoVation that pushed out a lot of damage. And look at these SCVs. They have no fear. They will surround the tank of Maru too.
Yeah, and we see one of them going down. 1 tank left, it's 8 SCVs dead, and INnoVation, though, still has that attack across the map, and Maru is not mining from his natural as he tries to use the Cyclone to push this away, but now it feels like he has nothing left.
No, that wasn't good enough for Maru at all, man, because in the end, he lost his push, and the push of INnoVation is still as strong as it was, and it's still pushing out a lot of damage. Maybe Maru should even send this orbital away, as crazy as that sounds, but it seems like this is not a fight that Maru is going to be able to win. There's a lot of auto turrets going down as well on the side of INnoVation, and the power of this Raven is really shining through.
Yeah, INnoVation able to come straight through there, jumps just as the tanks were sieging, so Maru couldn't back away from the fight either and go elsewhere, and now he's lost 15 SCVs. A Liberator shows up in the main base as well, and Maru types out GG as INnoVation goes up 2-1 in the best of 5. He's on match point here, and he is about to kill the dreams and hopes of many who are looking for that Maru Several Finals. He just needs 1 more map to make it to his first ever WESG Grand Final.
Similar facial expressions. Maru absolutely in trouble here. It's not just the fact that he's down 1-2, but it's kind of the way that these games are going as well, right? INnoVation just keeps getting himself in a lot of these positions that are straight up better. And Maru, his push looked a little bit reckless, man. And it's so funny, right? Because I feel the initial start of this game, really wasn't bad for Maru. You know where I think it went bad? Is when he went down that ramp with the 2 Reapers and the Hellion. I feel like at that point he kind of lost control of the game. And yeah, he went all the way into the main base of INnoVation and he picked off an SCV and he got a few more in the main base. But I feel at that point he lost the control that he had. He could have just actually sat comfortably at home, because the initial fight in his main, I think Maru handled really well and he kept his Hellion alive. And normally from that point you're supposed to be in a relatively sweet position, just play out your game from there. Inno had to make something happen at that point, but I feel like Maru just lost control when he went down that ramp, and at that point he's like, oh, I can't get back up, okay, I'm gonna attack. That's where it went crazy, it spiraled out of control, and it just seemed like Maru never really got a grasp on that in game anymore.
Imagine he just sits on the barracks, because not only then does he either force the fight from the Reapers, he may just force the barracks to cancel Reapers and they lift up and go home, and then he doesn't kill 6 more workers and all the rest of it that happened there. And that obviously became a big problem. Those Reapers got a lot more damage done. And that was the start of something for INnoVation. He is now again up 2-1. Maru just needs to, again, I think just little things sharpen up, and that is what's going to make the difference in a TVT between 2 players like this. If you're not on point, if you're making little mistakes, the other player will be able to punish that, take advantage, and absolutely just be able to run with it to take the series.
We've had 3 editions of WESG so far, and nobody has ever been able to prevail Maru from making it into the grand finals. He got a 2nd place, he won it last year. He's in a lot of trouble at this point. In the semi-finals, he needs to turn things around. I see an SCV moving out this time. For the man who's down 1-2, he's going back to what he does best, and that is proxy. It's Maru.
And to the top left-hand side, the blue Terran about to get a taste of his own medicine, perhaps. It's INnoVation. As we do have, as you mentioned, SCV's coming over. You know, I almost wanted to say, I kind of feel like Maru will 2-racks, because when someone does it to him, he likes to say, you know what, I can do that too, buddy.
But better. Of course, this is a good map for Reapers as well. A lot of surface area to hop into the main base. But the one difference between doing it on King's Cove, which is the map we currently on are, or New Repugnancy, is that it takes a lot longer for these SCVs to make their way to the other side of the map. That obviously means that the barracks in general are a bit later, and it's a slightly bigger strain on your own economy, right? So yes, it is a great Reaper map, but INnoVation showing that this is not his first rodeo, that he's somewhat familiar with the man that likes to build barracks. And man, this is bad for Maru. This is real bad.
Yeah.
That's his first barracks as well. That's now going to get delayed because he has to reposition that SCV over and over again. And I mean, Innos has the perfect scout.
Yep, he's going to be able to go straight into his 2nd gas here. Oh my god, that SCV needs
coming.
to stay over there. If INnoVation could just kill one of these SCVs, I mean, that'd be amazing.
If he gets this one, if he gets the one that's on the top, it's still exposed and it will go down. Maru in so much trouble at this point. He will at least get 1 barracks to finish up, but Wadi, this is a disaster for Maru.
Yeah, he has 1 Reaper, and it's going to be 1 Reaper against 1 Reaper at the same time. So Maru's not even going to get anything out of this. And obviously he's down on SCVs. He sends another SCV to the left. Is he just going to go and proxy a factory? I can't imagine what else he does.
That must almost be the case, right? Because this doesn't make any sense. It's definitely not for a barracks anymore, and it's not heading towards the base either. So,
yeah,
I mean, unless he wants to throw up the most random bunker, but no, I think it's gonna be. Oh, he wants to expand. That's so. Is that just a misrally?
Maybe.
There's nothing that an SCV can really do there. It's there right now. Maybe he just wants to let it soak up a shot.
Yeah, so you can get up the ramp.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't feel like it's worth sending an entire SCV across the map.
This is not something that I think you really want to get done here. Now, Maru may be able to get the first SCV. There is still that SCV that's now pushing the Reaper back a little bit, but Maru has to know that there's not that much he can get done here. That's a very weird SCV, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely no idea. Maybe just did accidentally rally it across, and then he just says, okay, you know what, I'll try and use it.
Oh,
no.
He's not paying attention either. Ends up losing his Reaper. Maru this is kind of falling apart here at this point. And if you're INnoVation right now, you got to be feeling so good about the first 3 minutes of this game.
Yeah, absolutely everything went beyond perfectly to find the barracks that quickly, to shut down the barracks from building. And Maru, well, maybe just a bit too predictable here. As now we see him, well, he's got a bit of a faster command center, but he's going to have to perform miracles to hold off this Reaper Hellion pressure even.
Yeah, the buildings are just going to be quite a bit later.
Yeah.
I mean, this can feel good. Maru also knows that he's about to lose all map control for quite some time. This is a nice little random Reaper that actually gets at least 1 SCV. There is a second SCV that took a little bit of damage from before, so this is somewhat nice, especially if this Reaper can somehow get out there. It's playing Dukes of Hazzard over here, but Eventually it will get picked off, but now INnoVation knows that it's his time. And what does Maru really have defending his command center?
Yeah, not really anything. The only good thing for Maru is that his command center is finished already, so he doesn't have the chance of it being delayed. I think that's perfect because he's going to have to sit on the high ground here, I think, with his units and just defend the Ram.
INnoVation has been pretty ambitious, though, with his Reapers and Hellions, so he's going to... Inno can do so much damage here. If he gets the focus fire right, his Hellion is a little bit late, but the Hellion is coming in from the other angle now. That Hellion gets a good shot off, splashes over both Hellions, by the way. Maru in trouble, but he does pick up the Hellion. Ooh, good micro on both sides there. Good job by Maru keeping that Hellion alive as well.
I have no idea how that Hellion stayed alive for so long, right? It was like one hit from death for an eternity. And the few extra shots he got off definitely helping out a little bit.
Yep.
Suddenly Maru is 27 to 26 workers. You know, army supply is not too different. And I almost dare to say there isn't that much of a kind of lateness on his Ravens and so on. Reaper's back in the main, though, and that's something that Maru is out of position to deal with.
Yep, but he does have plenty of Hellions now, so he should be able to take care at least of one of these Reapers. Almost gets the second one there as well. Maru's barracks still being annoying on the other side of the map. You're right, if that one Hellion goes down, INnoVation hops to the low ground with all 3 Reapers, he waits until they regenerate some of that HP, they come back. That could have been it. I think I honestly believe that Maru's tournament life was sort of on a little thread there, but keeping that Hellion alive multiple times and repairing it as well means that Maru's still alright. I'm not going to say that I love his position. I absolutely believe that INnoVation is ahead. You can see that in the numbers as well. But Maru's still in this game, especially because this is King's Cove, right? It's a very big map, so being down a couple of workers is not even the end of the world.
Those Reapers jumping in, a Hellion on the low ground too. The Reapers will now go down. There's one more SCV lost on the natural as well, though. And it is just these couple of workers here and there that INnoVation really likes, because obviously Maru just cannot really afford it at all. And still just down by about 5 workers here. Maru fighting an uphill battle. Will drop a nice fast third CC for like the first time in this series to match INnoVation's.
Yep, so both players heading towards 3 bases here. Once again, quickest stim by Inno, but that obviously makes some sense because he's not the one who lost his barracks on the other side of the map. But this is such a big map that I think even if Maru doesn't have stim for a little while, as long as he gets himself in a strong defensive setup, that dream is still alive for Maru to make it to his 3rd final in a row when it comes to the WESG. And of course, to finally have that highly anticipated clash with Sero.
Another Reaper from Maru is going to be trying to get back into the main, just trying to do a little bit more, but look at the position of units here from INnoVation. Cyclone in position. I mean, the Reaper gets a couple shots on the SCV. Mostly just gets a scout, gets to see double Viking production. Stimpack on the way up. INnoVation will counter that scout with a scout of his own, scanning into the main. A little bit of a different setup from Maru. No Stimpack from him, as though it looks as though he's going to get that setup after his 2nd Raven.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that everything is a little bit later, right? Maru obviously starting off with the 2 barracks on the other side of the map, one being cancelled. One was just flying around forever to get a scout going. Maru's got to be a little bit careful. He really doesn't have that many units in the first place. He spots this army of INnoVation. It's not just bigger than what Maru has. It's also better, right? There is more. It's a more expensive one. Wow, triple Raven at this point for Maru. I didn't even see that he got 3 out of them. He needs to be so careful, though. It's a Cyclone that's dangerous here as well. I understand what Maru is doing. He's trying to buy some time. He could maybe get a sick fight with auto turrets, right? Like, it's so funny because, I mean, yes, Interference Matrix is absolutely fantastic. But if you can get a fight with 6 auto turrets, that has just as big of an impact, if not a lot bigger.
Looks like as INnoVation comes up the left side, maybe just wants to slow Maru from taking the 3rd base. Also, you can set up a siege towards the main, and it looks as though that's what he's going to get here. Although he sieges up in range of the 1st tank, and that's huge for Maru.
Yeah, but there is an interference matrix that keeps that tank safe, and now INnoVation can actually get that tank as long as he keeps vision of it. Now he does finally get vision of it as well, and he's in range of some of these barracks too. Maru is on the ropes here, Wadi.
He absolutely is. In fact, Maru is about to lose a barracks if he doesn't lift it up. And oh no, Marines are running forwards. All the turrets are going to drop down on either side. Maru loses almost a full energy Raven. The 2nd Raven doesn't get to cast either. That is it.